Okay, this has to go. It's growing too big and I got tools everywhere and it's too many batteries. I'm going to have to build a bigger system. Okay, so this project is part of a shop reorg, I guess we could call it, and I'm just cutting everything up using leftover plywood and poplar, maple, and other wood from other projects. So this is costing me $0, hopefully, and this is just going to be, like I said, used all leftover wood that's been kind of laying around. So I'm going to utilize this material for this, and I did the same thing for the most part for the mobile workbench, pretty much. Besides the bottom shelving piece, pretty much everything was leftover lumber and materials from other uh, projects and leftover from other shelving and things like that. So I'm going to utilize a lot of the same wood if possible to save money, and also since this is shop furniture, it doesn't have to be pristine. I'm going to be beating this stuff up. So as you see here, I'm just cutting everything up on the table saw. This plywood I have left over. And now I'm going to be cutting up on the miter saw some of these trim pieces that are going to be holding the drills and impact drivers, etc. So this is what we're doing to start out right now. Okay, so now I'm just laying out everything. Even though I drew out measurements, uh, I still like to lay out the tools and look at it, just to get an exact idea where the dados are going to be, because I'm using dados for this, for the center divider shelves and also to the middle shelf and the top ridge we're going to run for the holding all the tools, as you'll see later. So right now we're just going to push this plywood slowly through the dado and just get the exact cut on each one, so we don't have to worry about like measurements and lining things up correctly. As long as we use the fence correctly and um, we just kind of flip everything over and just run the date on the other side, this comes out pretty easy. So here I'm just going to lay out, like I said, the top. I guess we'll call it like a groove to hold the triangle piece that we were cutting out earlier for the all the tool holder. So it's going to give me just a center line with a dado that I'll be able just to put like this square pieces of the top of the triangles, if that makes any sense, dividers in here that will keep everything nice and level and straight. So we're just going to run like one long dado along the top uh, of the back of the unit, or front of the unit, I'm sorry. For assembly, I'm going to be using some pocket screws, but also going to be using some 18 gauge brad nails, 1/2 inch brad nails, glue, and also going to use some trim head screws with countersink to assemble this carcass. So we're going to assemble the bottom here first, and then we'll do the middle and top dividers, and then we'll do the center dividers at the end. Okay, so I don't show it as a whole lot here in the video or capture it. I do use a speed square ruler a lot of times just to make sure that my project stays square as I'm assembling it. It's very important to use, you know, your tools, and even like these cheap little gadgets here I'm using with clamps to keep everything nice and square. And I do use the square word a lot here, but it's very important, even though it's more of a rectangular piece. But just the saying is square. You want to make sure your furniture is not wonky. So you take your time here, just make sure everything stays nice and straight. Your measurements are good, and if your measurements are good when you cut everything, you shouldn't really have too many problems. And if you do have the piece is not, you know, 100% square, you can use a clamp at the end if you have a long enough clamp diagonally or across to kind of pull your piece back into, you know, to square if need be. But otherwise, just take your time here. Using, like I said, brad nails and glue to start, but then I will come back later with some countersinks and some trim head screws to make sure everything stays nice and tight. So the carcass assembly is pretty much complete here to start. So we are now going to move on to setting up the top tool dividers here and holders. So as you see here, I was talking about earlier. Hopefully this will start making sense. So I'm going to be using a CA glue and activator here to hold these together, and then I'm going to be using brad nails to hold the top pieces on here, which if you see the top is laying on this work surface right now. So these will just be holding these in, and these top pieces will have a little overhang that will fit inside the groove that we cut earlier with the dado. And you'll see in a couple seconds here, it will hopefully start making a little sense what I'm doing here. So now it's just a matter of spacing. So I don't have exact science here. I'm just going to space these out according to my tools. I'm going to leave a little gap on the one edge here. So you'll see later in the video for holding the longer tool that will be just using a regular, like a little tool holder. That won't be using one of these pieces. But right now I'm just going to space these out for my tools. So now I'm going to move on to the trim pieces. I'm not going to do a face frame on this, but I'm going to do a couple trim pieces to have a little bit of a lip, and also to insert my power strip that you'll see later. So that's all I'm doing here. I'm just cutting up some of this old maple, and I think some of it is poplar too. But yeah, I'm going to be using maple mainly because it's a little harder. That will be used for just a little lip, we'll call it, for the bottom front pieces. So to hold this unit up on the wall, I'm partially going to be using French cleats. I'm not going to use 100% all French cleats, so I'm going to use French cleats for one bracket, then we'll screw the bottom piece in with countersinks and 2.5 inch screws. But right now we're going to cut a 45-degree angle on some of this extra plywood we have left over to use as a French cleat mounting bracket. So now I'm just buttoning everything up here. This is where I'm going to install this little tool holder, just for a longer multi-tool that I have. It's a little longer than the rest, so it just fits in there. But earlier I was just buttoning everything up with the carcass, putting the countersinks in, and then we're going to hang it all on the French cleat. Here, as you can see, is remove some other stuff. I'm going to be pulling this all down eventually too, and I'm putting new walls up, hopefully. But I like this little backup board here for this because it gives me a little more extra uh, surface here to screw in, even though I'm screwing in the studs. But I like the backup board too, just to help in case you don't hit the stud 100%, or it just gives a little more surface to work with. So that's all I'm doing here. We're just going to use the French cleats, and also going to use some 2.5 inch wood screws into the studs. So now I'm going to just cut a hole on each side just for cable management, make it easier. I probably should have done this ahead of time. This is one of the things I kind of not forgot, but I wasn't sure where I was going to put it. So wasn't sure if I was going to put it on the bottom or top, the hole. So I figured this is going to be the best bet. Just run through the sides, and then run through the bottom to the power strip that we're going to install in a couple minutes. I decided to load the power strip on the front here. I wasn't sure where I was going to put this. So that's why I was talking about the holes earlier, because I wasn't sure where I was going to put this power strip. I was going to lay it on the bottom of this unit or top, or the bottom center here, which I decided to go with the front here since this is going to be behind my work surface bench that I'm going to be using, my mobile workbench. So it was going to be easier for me to reach the cords and reach the tools, plug everything in with it in the center here, rather than in the bottom or top. Would have been tough to get there. Would have them remove the workbench. So here I'm just sanding everything up, just getting around any sharp edges, and now we're just going to start placing the tools in, make sure everything fits. And this project's almost done here. I also screwed in a couple little eye hooks down the bottom here on the fronts and sides, just to help with cable management, so the cables just don't sag. So it's kind of helping keep the cables, somewhat tight to the bottom of the storage unit here, as you can see here. So then I'm going to put a couple in the front here just to keep everything kind of out of the way of the tools as I'm pulling in and out, because I don't want them to pull the cables. So as you see, we're going to start putting some circular saws and things in here, and I don't want these cables to be in the way. So I use these little circle hooks, whatever you want to call the planer hooks, just kind of help cable management here. Okay, so I'll put this here temporarily until I replace this wall. And I still have some bigger clamps here at 36" and some other squeeze clamps and some longer pipe clamps up here, like along the ceiling. Okay, so this power drilling charging station tool organization is pretty much done. Uh, I just mounted the power in front, put all the drills and drivers and impacts up in the little slots here. Also utilize the size with these little brackets here, little get from Home Depot, just to plug in my jigsaw and brad nails down here too, and also on the other side I got pin nailers and 16 gauge brad nailer over here. Also have a power cord connected to it. You know, excess bags up top. I'll just use that for a little storage, light storage on my batteries. You know, the Ridges, the Milwaukees, Ryobis, Makitas, Craftsman. I got my sanders in here, all my circular saws in here, and a grinder. So it's pretty much done. I'm going to try to utilize every inch of this thing, as you can see. Try to make as much space as I can to clean the shop up, because it's a disaster right now. So the charge or the mobile workbench is pretty much done too. I'm still, you know, finagling some stuff with this, but still have some work to do with that. But it's pretty good. I take this outside, I use it to build this, and it works great, nice and level, as you see, with the table saw. So I think this is about it right now. So we're gonna close this up, and if you have any questions or comments, let me know. Thanks for watching.